When couples first fall in love, connection feels effortless. There are endless conversations, little gestures of tenderness, and a natural curiosity about each other. But as years pass, especially in long marriages, many husbands begin to assume their wives no longer need that kind of effort. They believe that providing for the family, staying faithful, or simply being present in the same home is enough proof of love. What gets forgotten is that emotional intimacy is not something that survives on autopilot. It requires attention, like a fire that must be tended. And when that fire isn't fed, when affection, attentiveness, and appreciation are replaced with silence or indifference, women often begin to feel invisible in their own marriages. The irony is that this neglect usually doesn't come from cruelty. It comes from habit. Life gets busy, responsibilities pile up, and people fall into roles: provider, parent, caregiver. But roles are not relationships. A role can function without heart, a relationship cannot. And what many women carry quietly inside, especially as they age, is a longing not to be taken for granted. They want to feel seen, valued, and cherished, not simply tolerated or assumed. Emotional neglect doesn't always look like shouting or cruelty. More often, it looks like the absence of effort. It's the silence after dinner instead of conversation. It's the forgotten compliment. It's the phone that stays in hand while the person you vowed to love sits across from you waiting for your eyes. Psychologically, this lack of emotional presence begins to erode a woman's sense of worth within the marriage. Human beings are wired for connection. The need to be acknowledged and understood does not vanish with time, it deepens. And when that need is unmet, it becomes a wound. For women, that wound often expresses itself as resentment. Not because they are ungrateful, but because they are starved. Imagine asking someone to breathe with half the oxygen they need. It's only a matter of time before fatigue and frustration set in. That is what emotional neglect does in a marriage. And here is where the shift must happen. Fixing emotional neglect does not require dramatic gestures or grand declarations. It begins with presence. Presence is powerful. When a husband takes the time to truly listen, not to respond, not to defend, but to understand, he sends the message: you matter. Your inner world matters to me. That act alone can begin to dissolve years of quiet resentment. Gratitude, too, has transformative power. A simple thank you for the meals prepared, the care given, the patience extended. These words can mean more to a woman than any material gift. Because gratitude says, I see you. I do not take you for granted. Another part of healing is relearning the art of affection. Small touches, genuine compliments, and shared laughter are not luxuries. They are necessities for the soul of a marriage. Emotional intimacy is less about what we say in milestones, and more about what we show in the everyday. The daily moments are where love either grows or withers. And for wives who may feel this quiet ache, there is also empowerment in speaking it aloud. Resentment thrives in silence. Expression opens the door for understanding. A marriage is a partnership, and both people have a role in keeping its heart alive. The truth is, emotional neglect is not about a lack of love. It's about a lack of awareness. Most men do love their wives deeply. They have simply forgotten how to express it in ways that nourish. But the beauty of awareness is that once you see what's missing, you can choose to rebuild it. And rebuilding doesn't mean starting over. It means remembering what you once promised each other and choosing, even now, to live it again. So, the real question is this: if love is still present in your marriage, will you let it sit silently, or will you give it a voice, a hand, a gesture that makes your partner feel seen once more? Because love that is expressed is love that lasts. One of the quietest but most corrosive forces in marriage is imbalance. Over time, many women begin to feel that the weight of responsibility has fallen unfairly on their shoulders. It's not always intentional, and it's not always obvious, but the pattern builds slowly and steadily, until one day it feels like the entire emotional and practical load of the household rests on her back. She is the one remembering the doctor's appointments, keeping track of birthdays, managing meals, organizing schedules, worrying about the bills, smoothing over conflicts, and often caring for aging parents or grandchildren, too. This invisible labor, the kind of work that doesn't always show up on a paycheck, becomes the unspoken backbone of family life. And yet, when it goes unacknowledged, it turns into one of the deepest seeds of resentment. What makes this so profound is that women are often not resenting the tasks themselves. They are resenting the feeling of being alone in them. Marriage, in its healthiest form, is supposed to be a partnership, a balance where both people carry the weight together. But when the scales tip too far, when one person gives energy constantly while the other coasts or assumes it will always be taken care of, the imbalance begins to feel less like partnership and more like servitude. And a woman who feels more like a caretaker than a companion will eventually begin to pull away emotionally, even if she stays physically present. The psychology behind this imbalance is important to understand. Responsibility in a marriage isn't just about tasks, it's about respect. When a husband steps into the household duties, when he actively participates rather than waiting to be asked, he is sending a message that says, "I see your labor. I value your effort. I will not leave you carrying it alone." That validation matters. Because what a woman desires is not perfection, but partnership. She doesn't want someone to take everything over. She wants someone to stand beside her, to notice the things she does without being told, and to meet her halfway. And there's a deeper philosophical truth here. True love does not allow one person to burn out while the other rests comfortably. True love is active. It leans in. It seeks balance because it understands that balance is a form of respect. Without it, the marriage may survive on the outside, but on the inside, it becomes a place of silent exhaustion. The fix, however, is not as complicated as people imagine. It begins with awareness and action. Husbands who wish to heal this imbalance must stop treating responsibility like a favor and start treating it like a duty of love. Cooking a meal, folding laundry, paying attention to what needs to be done. These are not chores assigned to one gender. They are acts of service to the family, and they honor the relationship itself. Imagine the relief a wife feels when her husband doesn't wait to be told, but notices the overflowing trash and takes it out. Or when he offers to handle dinner, not because she asked, but because he chose to. These small acts of initiative restore equality more powerfully than any apology ever could. For women, the step toward healing is often learning to speak about the imbalance without guilt. Too many women silence themselves, fearing they will sound ungrateful or demanding. But the truth is, asking for fairness is not nagging. It is honoring your own humanity within the marriage. And when that conversation is had with love, not accusation, it opens the door for real change. At the heart of it, imbalance is not just about tasks, it's about dignity. A marriage where one partner feels weighed down while the other floats free cannot thrive. But when both people choose to meet each other in the middle, to share the burdens as well as the joys, resentment transforms into trust, and trust into renewed intimacy. So the question every couple must ask themselves is this: are we walking side by side, or is one of us carrying more than the other without acknowledgement? Because the health of a marriage is not measured by how much one gives. It is measured by how well we share the load. And when love is expressed through balance, resentment has no soil to grow in. One of the most heartbreaking truths I've witnessed in long marriages is that people can spend decades under the same roof and still feel profoundly alone. Not because they don't care for each other, but because somewhere along the way, they stop being friends. In the early years, couples laugh together, dream together, share inside jokes, and lean into the joy of companionship. But as time passes, life's responsibilities, raising children, paying bills, managing households, take center stage. The friendship that once felt effortless begins to fade into routine. Couples shift from asking, "What do you think? How do you feel?" to asking, "What's for dinner? Did you pay the bill?" And slowly, without meaning to, the marriage becomes more like an arrangement than a connection. For many women, this loss of friendship cuts deeply. They miss the version of their husband who was curious about their thoughts, who wanted to share laughter over small things, who looked at them with interest rather than obligation. Women don't resent growing older with their husbands, they resent feeling as though they've lost the sense of play, adventure, and companionship that once defined their relationship. That quiet ache often turns into resentment, not of the man himself, but of the loneliness they feel while lying next to him. The psychology of friendship in marriage is vital to understand. Romantic love may ignite the relationship, but friendship sustains it. Without friendship, passion dims and companionship weakens. And friendship is built not just on love, but on intentional investment, on choosing to engage, choosing to be present, choosing to remain interested in the person you've spent years beside. When that effort disappears, even love itself can begin to feel hollow, because love without companionship is survival, not joy. The good news is that this loss is not permanent. Friendship can be rebuilt, even after decades of distance, but it requires conscious choice. It begins with creating space for shared experiences again. Couples who laugh together, who play together, who explore something new side by side, breathe life back into their connection. This doesn't mean elaborate trips or dramatic gestures. Sometimes it means taking a walk after dinner, trying a new hobby together, or simply sitting down with a cup of tea and asking each other questions as if you were still dating. Curiosity is the lifeline of friendship. When you stop being curious about each other, you stop discovering each other. And when you stop discovering, the relationship stagnates. Husbands who want to heal resentment must remember this truth. Your wife does not only want to be loved, she wants to be liked. She wants to feel that you enjoy her company, that you value her conversation, that you see her as more than the person who shares your bed and your bills. Wives want to feel like a partner in joy, not just in duty. And when that friendship is restored, it reignites the bond that made you choose each other in the first place. For women, too, there is power in extending an invitation back into friendship. Sometimes resentment builds walls so high that laughter feels impossible again. But vulnerability, offering a chance to reconnect, suggesting a shared activity, or showing appreciation when your partner tries, can slowly open those doors. Friendship is not one person's responsibility, it is a dance, and both partners must choose to move toward each other. Here is the truth: marriages don't wither because of time, they wither because of neglect. And friendship is often the first thing neglected. But when couples choose to water it again, to make space for joy and companionship, resentment begins to fade. Because it's very hard to resent someone when you're laughing with them, when you're learning with them, when you're discovering life together, even in later years. So I leave you with this question: are you living beside your partner, or are you truly living with them? Because at the end of the day, it is not the years you share that define the beauty of a marriage, but the friendship you choose to keep alive within them.